A rhetorical question that I'd imagine that you have probably heard someone that you respect be asked. It's one of the most common questions, in fact, I think, as far as apologists and pastors and teachers of the Bible, as well as just about every church leader and parachurch ministry leader, youth pastor, book author, has been asked. In fact, you probably could type just about any of those people's names into a search bar on YouTube or Google, and with the phrase that you're probably going to get a clip of them answering this question, and that is, what could break your faith? What could cause you to lose your faith in God, or could shake the foundation of your belief in God? And the main thing about this is that it's really only asked in one of two ways, but it's based on a bad definition of the word faith. The first is that it's based on the idea that faith is the act of believing. And the second is the idea that that faith is a systematized set of belief, that it's basically a synonym for religion. And it's pretty commonly used that way, unfortunately. You can even find it used that way in like the Athanasian Creed and places, unfortunately. But the truth is that both of those are bad uses of the word faith. The original use of the word faith comes from the word fide, the Latin term meaning trust or faith, and that it means, it's the root for like the Marine Corps' slogan, semper fidelis, always faithful, or semper fi, right? Or and so what it means is always faithful, always loyal. That's really the true definition of faith. To be loyal, be faithful, be trusting in someone or an organization, or to be entrusted to them. That's what it actually means. And so if we reword this in a honest to goodness, direct definition of the word faith, someone would ask, what could break your loyalty to God? What could break your trust in God? What could cause you to lose your loyalty, faith, trust in God? And in that way, the only reasonable answer to that question is a sense of breaking of my trust, disloyalty on the part of God to me, or a lack of trustworthiness. And if you assert what God's character is, that he is always faithful, that he is never changing, it makes it basically impossible. Because the challenge here is that if you believe that faith is, in fact, just the act of believing, then you are genuinely in danger of losing your faith, because that is a definition of faith that can be lost. You could stop believing. You could, or as far as a systematized set of beliefs, what happens if you stop believing in specific tenets in whatever creed, confession you have been raised in? What happens then? Obviously, both of those are unstable forms, you might want to say, of faith. But they're not good ones. That's not the proper definition, right? And so this is asked in one of two ways. One is the atheist who asks this question, who is always generally looking for ammunition. They're looking for the Christian to say that my faith can't be lost, broken, or that I don't know what could break or lose my faith. Because either one of those is a win in their column, or a according to their reasoning. They want me to say that nothing could, because then I have the appearance of being closed-minded, whereas the atheist now has the opportunity to portray themselves as open-minded. That based on whatever evidence or evidentiary claims that they're willing to accept, that they are willing to change their mind, which is usually not a true statement. Or that I appear as being not mindful, that I haven't thought about this thing, or maybe I've never considered it, or something along this line. And so that it allows them to have something of a moral victory in the conversation. The second way to ask this question is the Christian who is either feeling doubts, skepticisms creeping in, like they could lose their faith. Maybe they're in the process of losing their faith because, again, that they've adopted this bad definition that faith is defined by an act of belief or in the act of believing specific claims. As a result, they probably are on shaky ground, and the way I would answer them is that I would, since they are seeking likely either reassurance or comfort, they're looking for fact statements to reassure themselves, or they're looking for comfort, I would actually reaffirm a quality definition of this word faith. I would seek to redirect their definition of faith to be more reliably centered on trusting in God, loyalty to God, because a loyalty doesn't require a all-encompassing grasp of every fact statement that is a reliable defense, or every evidence that can be marshaled in defense of the Christian faith. It's just essentially can be summarized by the statement, I don't know, but I trust what I do know. Somebody asks me about something that I'm unfamiliar with, I can say, I don't know, I'll look into it, but I'll trust what I do know in the meantime. That's what faith is. And that it's not an evasion of facts, it's not an evasion of new information, it's simply a decision to rely on what I do currently know about God, about the church, about church history, about theology, what I do know about it. And as I rely on what I do know, I won't be as a fragile of a target for those who are seeking to undermine faith, like a street epistemologist or something. So that's one thing. I'm going to reaffirm a good definition of faith. And then the other thing is, I may try to marshal some of those fact statement answers to help reassure them, with the understanding that if you can be argued into belief, you can be argued out of it. And so I'm not trying to induce a new faith into this person. I'm not trying to refill their gas tank, essentially. What I am trying to do is satisfy some of their doubts, answer some of their questions as well as I am capable of doing. And in doing so, I may satisfy some of their doubts. But one of the things about doubts is they do tend to multiply when left unattended. And so if they've got 10 questions and I answer 9 of them successfully, but I leave one unanswered for whatever reason, the next time that person is alone with Scripture or with their pastor or whatever, they're not going to have one question. They're probably going to have 10 more, because that's how they tend to multiply, almost exponentially. And so it's notable that if you are, that's why it's so dangerous to try to base your faith on let's say evidence, on these things to base your loyalty to God based on what science is going to produce, or basing your loyalty to God based on what um, something on some apologist's monologue, based on some book that you've read that other than Scripture, like that. Why it's so dangerous to do those things, because of the fact that studies get retracted, that archaeological finds find other things that they have difficulty explaining or can't explain at all, because of the fact that scientists often don't really know what they're talking about, because of the fact that someone online has the ability to be persuasive even if what they're saying is false. So, being loyal is essentially relying on, again, God Himself. Trusting in God that He is good, and expecting that His goodness will win out.